I'm back home in Canada. It's freezing cold. I'm like, well, I guess I'm not going outside until January because that's when I'll be in a warm place again. So that step goal, not happening for a month.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams.
Welcome to Remote Roundup. Each month, you'll get a highly curated list of the latest and greatest from the world of remote work and long-term travel, including insanely helpful tools and resources, need-to-know trends, destinations worth spending time in, and plenty of insight into what it really means to live and work around the world. And we do it all with a dose of humor, or at least we try. I'm Janessa, the Partnerships Manager for Zero to Travel, and I'm a slow traveler working remotely who took an adult gap year 6 years ago and never returned to a conventional life. And fun fact, I have actually never been to Asia.
Really?
Which surprises a lot of people. Exactly. It surprises a lot of people because I've traveled for so many years and been to quite a few countries, and I spent at least 3 months on all of the other continents aside from Antarctica. But I say it's because it's far, but Australia's far. So is Argentina. So is South Africa. So I don't know. Will 2026 be the year that I finally make it to Asia?
I'm going to make you come to Asia with me because it's my favorite place. Anyway.
I know once I go, I'll fall in love and the list will keep growing.
Exactly. But I'm Caitlin, associate producer of the Zero to Travel podcast and a digital nomad for the last year and a half who loves to help people do life differently. And fun fact for me, this year, 2025, I have been to 8 countries. Not super exciting, but I guess that's a good amount. I didn't really make this list. Well, I made this list for this episode, and then I realized that I've been to more than I thought. So with that in mind, coming your way in this month's Remote Roundup, we're actually going to be doing a bit of a looking back and looking forward as we head into the new year. So you're going to hear about 5 questions to reflect back on in 2025, our favorite intention setting activities that will actually follow through with, we hope, the new place, new me trap that I think both Janessa and myself keep finding ourselves in, and some fun travel superlatives for places that we've been to this year that may be fun for you to do yourself. And by the way, before we dive in, just a quick reminder that you can get our free value-packed community-driven newsletter over at zerototravel.com/newsletter. All right, Janessa, I want to know where you are during this recording. I think you might be back home. Is that right?
Yeah. So I'm actually home again for the holidays. This has been the most amount of time I've spent back in my home country in many years. So it's been different, but it's been good. And I'm here for Christmas because I didn't come home last year for Christmas. I spent the last one in Kenya, which was so much fun. That was my first ever summer Christmas. So this year I am back to a white Christmas, which I've had all but 2 in my life have been a white Christmas because I'm from a very snowy part of Canada.
Wow. I'm sure your family is like really excited for you to be back, huh?
They're happy that I came, especially since I skipped last year. So I know we talked about it last month in our episode about going home for the holidays. So what did you decide, Caitlin? Where are you?
Yeah, so I decided that I'm going to be spending Christmas and New Year's here in Chiang Mai, Thailand. So I had the conversation. I had that hard conversation with my mom specifically about, wanting to be back for the holidays or not and trying to figure out what made the most sense for me. And yeah, I decided that it made the most sense for me to be here for the holidays this year. But then I think I'm going to be going back home maybe in either end of January or sometime early in February. So they will get to see me, just not for the holidays. But I'm excited to see what it's like here in Asia for the holidays. Christmas seems pretty big here, at least among the expats, and everything seems decorated. And to celebrate New Year's in a new city is really exciting for me because I've never celebrated New Year's outside of the States before. So,
oh, that's so much fun. I'm excited for you and I can't wait to hear all about it. So, we are going to be doing some looking back on the past year. And before we get into the deeper reflection, we're going to just look back on some Zero to Travel podcast highlights of some things that we did this year. So, we had some new aspects of the podcast, including the newsletters. You may have noticed if you are on the email list that not all the emails were from Jason this year. Caitlin and I both did some newsletter takeovers, which was really fun, actually, I think for both of us. So let us know if you liked those, if you want more of those. And we also have some new guest co-hosts that we've recently introduced. So if you've missed those recent episodes, we had one from Paige McClanahan, who has been a guest on the show before, as well as a recent one from Gunnar and Jackie that have also been guests before on the show. And we've got at least one more new guest co-host coming your way that we'll introduce you to in the new year. So some really exciting changes, making it even more of a community-powered show. And I hope you enjoy these new guest co-hosts. So we also wanted to look back and see what some of the most popular episodes were this year. Caitlin, can you let us know what you found digging into our stats?
Yes. So I dug deep into our stats yesterday and pulled out our most downloaded episodes. So I found our top 3. Number 1 downloaded episode is 14 of the best places to travel in 2025 that are Jason's picks specifically. That was released in January, so it makes sense that it's gotten a lot of downloads. But also, I mean, I think we all love our destination episodes to figure out where we want to travel to next. So just because we're going into 2026 doesn't mean that you shouldn't still go listen to this episode, because there are a lot of great destinations in there and some that I never really heard of or thought about myself. So definitely go ahead and give that one a listen. Number 2 was actually a previously recorded episode. We re-released it. It was top 10 reasons to love living abroad with Boutique Quest. So this was also a great one. Obviously, we want to know why we love living abroad so much. So give that one a listen. And the third most downloaded one is the 5 best hacks of all the hacks: travel, money, and life optimization with Chris Hutchins. So if you're not familiar with him, he is actually the podcast host of All the Hacks, which is a super great podcast. Listen to the episode with Chris. Go ahead and listen to his podcast too. And yeah, those are our top 3 most downloaded. And then I think we wanted to share our individual favorite episodes from the year. So Janessa, do you want to share yours?
Yeah, this was actually so hard to choose. And full disclosure, Caitlin listens to every episode as she produces it, but that's not actually part of my job at Zero to Travel. So I'm doing it completely in my free time, and I just still love all of the episodes, even after listening for years. So tough decision, but I went with profiling every UN nation in alphabetical order, travel through geography, and lessons from 10 years of YouTube success with Paul Barbato of Geography Now. So I'm not a huge YouTube watcher, but Paul, or Barbs as he goes by on YouTube, his channel Geography Now, pretty much every time I go to a new country, I look up his episode on that country. So it took him 10 years to make an episode on every single UN nation in the world. And so I was so excited to see him on our guest list. And that was a super fun one when it came out, to kind of hear firsthand of his journey of completing that big YouTube quest. So that was a fun one for me.
Awesome. Yeah, I thought that was a great episode as well.
Did you have one that stuck out?
Yeah, so my favorite episode, it was hard for me too, because yes, I listened to all of them, but it's so hard to pick, because then I listen to all of them, because I think I listened to one and then I'm like, this is my favorite one. Then I listen to the next episode. I'm like, oh, wait, I really like this one. But the one that stands out to me the most, that I always keep going back to in my mind for one reason or another, is called How to Navigate Transitions and Design Your Life Without the BS with Lauren Handel-Zander. So yeah, this one stands out to me a lot. It is more about personal development than, a straight travel episode, but it really is no BS. The advice that she gives on that episode, whether it's for, personal development or for travel, it can kind of be applied to everything. And she gives so much advice in this episode that I think it's really worth a listen if you haven't already checked out the episode. And if you have, maybe this would be actually a good episode to listen to as we move into the new year and you're kind of rethinking about kind of how you want to design your life for 2026?
Yeah, that's a great one. I think that one also came out quite early in 2025. So I know I listened to it, but I don't remember all the details either. So I may be going back. And if there's other ones that we've listed here that maybe you don't remember, if you've listened to them, maybe this is a good time for the holidays. If you have some extra time on your hands, go back and check out these most popular episodes and our favorite honorable mention episodes. There's a lot of good stuff there.
Definitely. All right. So before we start planning ahead for the new year, Janessa and I decided that we wanted to come up with 5 questions to get us all kind of thinking about this past year. So we're going to give our answers, and you can go ahead and you can do this along with us. And we're going to try not to overthink the answers too much because, sometimes we get in our heads and we are trying to find the best answer. But I think when we just let whatever the first thing that comes up, that's going to be our answer for this. Maybe if you want to, like I said, listen along and kind of think about these questions for yourself, or if you want to even use them and do more of a journal deep dive, if that's your thing, that could be great too. So, all right, Janessa, my first question for you is, what's a moment from this year where you felt most yourself?
Oh, I love this question. I think this is so much better than a lot of the typical reflection questions of what went well, what didn't. When you felt most yourself. Okay, I'm going to go with recently, actually, in Mexico. I stayed at one of my favorite co-livings, and it was my second stay at this location, the 4th day with the co-living. So it felt very comfortable. It feels like home. But what I love most is the community and the connections that I build there. And on this particular stay, there was about 4 friends staying in the co-living that I knew from different trips. Like they didn't all know each other. And about 10 other friends staying in town elsewhere. So it was really cool to just see everyone in one place, getting to know each other and forming new connections. And the reason that made me feel most like myself is because I just love the feeling of bringing people together. I feel like I thrive on the informal networking with introducing individuals that I think should know each other. And I love the feeling of like different phases of life kind of all coming together and interweaving those social circles kind of in a natural way. So that was a really special place and time for me.
I love that. And I didn't know that about you, Janessa. So thank you for sharing. I know for me, Mexico as well is also where I felt most myself. Maybe it's something about the air in Mexico. But mine was when I was in Tepoztlan, Mexico. But this is because I go on retreat there every year. I go on a breathwork retreat. So I'm surrounded by a lot of people who I already know. A lot of them were in the location indie community with me. And yeah, when you're on retreat, that is kind of the space that allows you to connect more with yourself in that moment and kind of get more raw and real about who you are. And yeah, you have no choice but to feel like your most self in those situations. So that's going to be mine.
I love that. That's such a good answer. And yeah, I guess there's something about Mexico and community.
Something about Mexico. All right. So next question. What's something you didn't plan, but now you're so glad happened?
All right. So this situation was a little chaotic. I definitely would have never predicted this happening or planned it for myself. But I was part of a program at the end of last year. In case you haven't heard of it before, it's called Remote Year. And it was one of the longest running work and travel programs. The original version was a full year, and then they expanded to do 1-month versions, 4-month journeys through 4 different countries with the same cohort of people. So I had signed up for a 4-month trip through 4 different countries in Africa. And a few days before Christmas last year, I was 2.5 months into this 4-month adventure when we found out that Remote Year, the company, was going out of business. And so at the time, it was very stressful trying to figure out getting refunds, not through the company, but through credit cards, places to stay at the last minute in Cape Town when it was peak season. So a very stressful situation that I didn't see coming. And about 2 weeks warning really is what we had. But I continued on to Cape Town anyway, and we built a really beautiful community there. Like everyone just came together to make the best of the situation. the former remote year leader helped us out with like organizing activities. And at the end of January, we had this farewell event. And it was so cool looking around and seeing the community of like over 40 people who had made that month what it was, even without the formal structure of the program. And of course, that was not actually a farewell because a lot of the people stayed longer, including myself. I completely fell in love with Cape Town. I stayed for 2 more months, and a lot of people who were supposed to be part of the February and March chapters of this program showed up anyways, even though there was no program. We welcomed them with open arms, and that community is still thriving. A lot of us are coming back this year. So that is something that if you had told me that all these amazing experiences would have happened out of getting quote unquote stranded in Africa, I couldn't have imagined that when I was in that moment of stress on December 20th, 2024. And it felt like everything was just falling apart. There was so much disappointment about things not going to happen the way that I thought they were going to happen. And it was hard to imagine how it was going to work out. But I'm so grateful for the experience I did have, and everything worked out for the best.
I love that. Like, what a turnaround of events, right? Like, I remember seeing the whole remote year thing happening and hearing, from you, like so much of what was going on. And yeah, I wonder, now you kind of have this, maybe a little bit of a trauma bond over the situation, right? But now you kind of have this whole new like community, it seems that came out of it, which maybe is even stronger than the community that you would have had if remote year actually worked out. Who knows? You never know. But that's amazing that it worked out how it did and that you're going back.
Yeah, exactly. I never could have predicted that 1 year ago. So that was very cool to kind of have this full circle moment of realizing that, the community is still going just because of the people that are involved. But anyways, I would love to hear your answer for this question.
Yeah. So something that I didn't plan that I'm so grateful happened is coming to Thailand, actually. So at the beginning of the year, I had assumed that I would wind up in Thailand, but then I found myself staying in Europe for longer than I should have. I was doing it for love, Janessa. I was trying to do it for love, and that didn't work out. I was super honest. I was staying there to kind of keep myself available for this potential thing that was happening, and it didn't pan out. And so I decided to choose myself, and I said, screw it. I'm going to Bangkok. I think I booked a ticket like a few days, before I actually left for Bangkok. And that has been the best thing. So something that I'm actually learning right now is to choose myself in more situations. So that was a big lesson for me, but I'm so glad that I'm here. Now I'm in Chiang Mai. I've had all of these experiences. I'm back with so many of my friends here, and I'm just, really, really enjoying life. And now I'm going to be here for New Year. So everything is good. Everything is good once you come to Thailand, Janessa. You need to come visit.
Hint, hint, come to Thailand. No, I love that that's something that you didn't plan, and it worked out for the best. So I think that's just a lesson as we are, planning ahead for the new year. We're excited about making all these travel plans, and that's great. But sometimes you just need to keep that space for things that you don't plan. And like, you have no idea what's going to happen, and just being open to what can happen, and maybe something amazing will come out of it.
Exactly. All right. Next question. What did this year teach you about how you actually want to live?
Okay. So this is kind of related to work-life balance, which I do think is a bit of a myth, but hear me out on this. So on January 1st of this year, I was so determined to get a full-time remote 9-to-5 job. I felt very burnt out by freelance life. My plan was to just get any job in any field that let me continue traveling. And I even went back and found the goals that I wrote down that day that included exactly what I was looking for and how I would get there. But clearly that did not happen. I'm still here at Zero to Travel, which has always been part-time for me, but I also got referred by a friend, a turn of events that I didn't expect, to work for a podcast production company where now I kind of have the best of both worlds. So I have enough consistent hours to get that stability that I was really craving, but also I could still work whatever schedule I want. I kind of kept that freedom. So I kind of realized once I was out of the stress of being tired of, the grind of freelance life, that a full-time corporate job probably also would have been a real shock for me. And I mean, I see some friends in like amazing remote jobs, but for me, like lifestyle still comes first, and something that would have like location restrictions or time zone restrictions would have been very challenging. So I also realized like there were some clients that I needed to let go, and some that weren't a good fit. For a while, I was also overbooked, which sounds like a good problem when you've come from being underbooked, but it's not a way I want to live long term. I really want my work to be like enjoyable enough, which it now is. So one of the wins is no longer working with clients I don't like, while also not taking over my entire life. So I still sometimes need to be careful about not working too much, but I feel like I'm finally getting closer to that elusive balance that I'm looking for, than I have been in the past few years. So that's what I've kind of realized about what works best for me and how I want to live.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that you shared that. And it's true, work-life balance is a bit of a myth. It's always going to kind of ebb and flow, but, working to get the closest that you can get to it, I guess. And yeah, kind of find that stability. You use that word. And that is actually my answer to this question, is that I need more stability. Traveling is amazing. I'm creating stability in a sense by trying to stay in places as long as I can. But I'm finding that that's not really necessarily enough for me either. And when I say stability, I mean location stability, monetary stability, health stability, community stability, everything stability, right? So one of those things for me is, I'm trying to really kind of figure out, and same thing with balance, it's going to ebb and flow, but kind of figure out all of those elements that I need to feel a little bit more stable and secure as well, while still continuing to travel and actually committing to those things, because there's a lot of things in theory that I know that I need to be stable, like morning habits, morning routines, blah, blah, blah. And I stick to them for a little bit, but then I move to another country and they go out the window, or I don't know, I get a bad night's sleep, so then I don't do it the next morning. And then it just continues the cycle of then not keeping up with it. So yeah, I actually want to live more stable, and in commitment to that stability as well is a big, big thing for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think we've had a lot of conversations about that lately on the podcast in previous Remote Roundup episodes, of kind of this balance of needing stability and community and potential home base. And I think that's probably a conversation we're going to continue having both on the podcast and in our personal lives with other nomads. I think that's a very relatable struggle, and it's good that you're learning more about yourself and how you actually need to live.
Yeah, exactly. And, I didn't think this was going to come up a year and a half into traveling. I thought it's going to be, great, I can do this forever, go, 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 go. And that's just not the case for me. And I've accepted that. But yeah. Last question, I think, is, where did you notice growth, even if it came from something hard?
Okay, this is tough because it's hard to have like one big thing that kind of where you notice growths. It's more the small moments, but I'm going to go with something very practical for this one. So we'll probably have very, very different answers for this. So I'm going to go with my financial decisions. So I had about 6 months in a row of very high spend, low income, which is not a great combo. So I had to get more strategic in the second half of the year about fixing that situation, rebuilding my bank account, making decisions that supported that, and even when the FOMO was strong. But I was kind of, had to make some harder choices to stay focused on that goal after I'm still having a lot of fun, but I have chosen my places more strategically lately for several reasons, but one of them was financial.
I relate to that so much. I probably need to get some help from you in that direction, though, because I definitely find myself in that hole a bit too often. For me, where I notice growth, there's so many moments, like you said, so it's hard kind of choosing one. But I'm going to go with learning how to build cob houses in Costa Rica. So when I say cob houses, I mean like earthen structures, basically using the earth, using natural materials to literally construct a home. I did this it was a 5-week like certification course. So I'm now a certified cob builder to some extent, I guess. I can build you a house. But it was the most physically demanding thing that I have ever done in my life. We did not use any like excavation tools. Like we dug that foundation. We stomped on all the mud instead of using like mixing machines or whatever. So it was a lot. So I learned a ton about just my ability to do that physically. But then also there was a lot of lessons on learning to kind of trust yourself as you're building this house, because you're literally like throwing up mud and then like cutting it to make the shapes. And so it's a lot of just, learning to trust yourself with the materials and things. And so exhausting. So that was definitely a huge, huge growth month for me, for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. I remember when you were planning to go on that trip and then you were there, and that feels so long ago in some ways. And I love that we went in such different directions with that question. I think there are so many ways you can go with it. So this especially might be a good one to like go back, journal on more, maybe find multiple different answers for this one. I think that's one that I definitely want to reflect on a little bit more after this podcast.
Yeah, you can kind of break that up into like different categories of growth even. So you can kind of see where you've grown in, your mindset, physically, et cetera, et cetera. And I lied. We're not done with the questions. I just missed this one. So, all right. Instead of big wins, share 3 tiny, very human moments that shaped you.
This is also tough because you could go in so many different directions with this. And I'm very curious to see how our answers are different. So try not to overthink this. But so one of them for me would be when I was in Tanzania. I remember waking up one day and being really stressed about work, annoyed that something in my apartment wasn't working, just like not in a good mood. And I stepped out onto my balcony, and it was on this very like nice modern building in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. The neighborhood was very like mixed income. And I saw my neighbors getting water from a community well. And that just like put everything in perspective. And I try to remember this when things feel stressful in the moment, because I think a lot of us are aware of our privilege, but that moment of checking myself just really stayed with me. So that was one that I think about a lot. Another one, a little bit later, when I was in Berlin, I have a community of friends who live there permanently because I used to live there. So I've known these people for about 6 years. Ever since I moved away, I've been going back at least once a year. And it always feels just kind of like slipping back into a very comfortable community there. But this time, the difference was I had my old bicycle back. So when I moved away, I sold it to a friend. And now I borrowed this exact same old bike back. And I just love the feeling of the freedom I got from not having to just rely on public transportation. I know we talked about Berlin a lot in a past episode about how easy it is, but with a bike was even easier, such a game changer. And I just loved the feeling that if the group chat was going off with plans to just meet up in the park because it's a sunny afternoon, or like one day a friend was just like having a rough day and needed some company to just sit and hang out for a while, I was able to just like hop on my bike and be there in a few minutes. And that made me realize like how important that was, like both like logistically and from like a community standpoint. So I just really enjoyed those little moments. And the last one I'll share was actually hosting our first episode of Remote Roundup, because both of us have been listeners of the show for many years. I think I've listened to every episode since 2020. And we had done an interview with Jason before, but it felt very full circle to not just be working with Zero to Travel for several years now, but also having the opportunity to contribute something that may help people in ways that hearing Jason and his amazing guests helped me when I first started my travel journey. So that was a cool moment I wanted to add in there.
That was such a cool moment. And I didn't even think about that for my list, but now I want to add a fourth one, the fifth one. I have so many. I love that. I think it's been a very, very busy year, a very busy year. When you actually start to answer these questions, you realize that so much more has happened than you realize, right? Okay, so for mine, I'll try to keep them kind of short, and then I just changed one up because you inspired me. My first one is my Uber driver in San Jose, Costa Rica. So I'm going to try to keep this story short. But so I landed in Costa Rica super late at night. I got picked up by this wonderful woman, this wonderful Uber driver, and she goes to drop me off at my place. And I didn't realize that San Jose, a lot of people say it's not necessarily like the safest place to be, especially at night as a woman, blah, blah, blah. So she dropped me off and she got out of her car to take me to my apartment. And no one was answering the door. It was this whole thing. So basically, she was like, stay in the car. I'm going to keep knocking on this door, try to get in touch with them. And she basically took care of me the whole time. Long story short, didn't get in touch with them. So she actually was like, let's go get food. She took me out to get food. She turned off the Uber driving thing because now we were friends. She was genuinely taking care of me. We bonded so much. We had so much in common. Her kids, I think maybe what she went to school for was very similar to me. I booked my hostel. She dropped me off at the hostel. I really wish that I took a photo with her before I left. We did get to connect on Facebook, but I think having a photo would have been such a sweet moment. And it's one of those things that I thought about asking her for, but I didn't. So yeah, she kind of really, just another reminder of like just how, caring and how amazing people are. And how people just want to help you. I didn't know that I really needed help at first, but then she was like, no, you're sitting in my car and we're figuring this out together. So that was just a really beautiful moment. My second moment that shaped me is I've never cliff jumped. It's always just like, it's scared the crap out of me. I don't know if there's a rock in the water. Like I just, it scares the crap out of me. I never want to do it. Whenever I go somewhere with cliff jumping, everyone else does it and I just refuse. But I went rafting when I was in Bulgaria this year, and there's this opportunity to do cliff jumping. And I'll say the cliff really wasn't that high. It was probably pretty unimpressive to most people. But at first I was like, absolutely not. Everyone else was, I think 2 people said no. 2 people said yes. Everyone else said no. I started saying no. And then something in my head just clicked. That was like, I think I actually said this out loud. I said, if I'm scared, I should probably do this. So I did it. And it was so fun. So that's kind of a lesson that I've taken, I think, a little bit throughout this year with getting out of your comfort zone is if there's something telling you, like whether it's jumping off of a cliff, making a business decision, whatever, that being fearful and being scared is not necessarily because you shouldn't do it or because you're going to fail. Like there's actually probably something really great on the other end of that fear. So yeah, I encourage everyone else, if you're scared, you should probably do it. And then that leads into my next one, kind of along the same lines of that thought process is I volunteered at Bansko Nomad Fest this year, and I was supposed to be kind of the manager of getting some of the content. And somehow I became the interviewer of our speakers, and I was scared to death. I think I did it because I just realized that the interviews that I was getting wasn't exactly what I was asking for. And then someone was like, oh, you should just do it yourself because you know what you're looking for. And I was like, no, I don't really want to do that. Like, I'm used to being behind. I don't want to be in like the front interviewing people. And then I did my first interview. And let me tell you, it was the funnest thing in the entire world. And I realized that actually being in front, more on stage of things is actually what I want to do and how I see myself. But I was just so fearful and always just kind of put myself behind the scenes of everything. So, and then, that also led to now we're hosting this podcast together. So kind of like a full circle, like few months, how it started there. And now we're here. So those are going to be my top 3. Like I said, I could keep coming up with ideas, but I'm going to stop talking now.
I love that. Those are great moments. And yeah, I think this is a good way to kind of reflect on the little things that maybe you did or maybe you didn't journal about at the time. And then it's easy to kind of forget these little moments that did have a big impact on you. I love your Uber driver in Costa Rica. That I always love stories about just like the good of humanity everywhere you go in the world. Like people generally are good. And I'm so glad you were safe in that situation. And that woman sounds amazing.
She was amazing. I wish I remembered her name. But anyway, okay, I have one extra bonus question for you. It's a little more fun, not super reflective, but I wanted to ask, what is the most unexpected place that you ended up this year?
Ooh, we love a bonus question on Zero to Travel. We love a bonus question. So, the most unexpected place, I'm going to go with North Macedonia. So, it wasn't really on my radar to go this year, but when I was in Bansko, a friend had rented a car and really wanted to do a weekend road trip. And it was actually a lot closer to Bansko, Bulgaria than I thought. And so I went, and we realized that a couple of friends happened to be in Albania at the time. So with like a day's notice, they hopped on a bus and came to come meet us in Skopje. So it was such a just fun and unexpected reunion. And so we enjoyed exploring Skopje and some of the surrounding areas. And then on the way back to Bulgaria, we decided to spend a night in a different town just to kind of see more places. And we made the mistake of trusting ChatGPT for an itinerary. We didn't do a lot of our own research. And so it was this random town that was named by ChatGPT the most picturesque town in all of North Macedonia. And so we get there, and not only is there like hardly anywhere to stay, there's like nothing to do. Like it was cute. It was kind of cute, but like not worth going out of your way to see, like by any means. And so I don't remember what it was called. But luckily we hadn't yet booked our accommodation. So we continued on to a slightly more practical town for the night. And I'm also typically like a planner. I'm not usually a cool with not knowing where I'm sleeping tonight kind of person. So that was a different experience for me, but it all worked out fine. But I think it was a good reminder of why I still prefer to trust humans for travel advice rather than AI.
Yeah, I like AI to get ideas, but then you always have to go back and validate everything, I think is important. For me, my answer would be Phuket, actually. Just the other week, essentially, I went to Nomad Fest Bangkok in Bangkok. It was a creator edition. One of the guys that I actually interviewed at Bansko Nomad Fest, John from Hip Traveler, was the one putting on this event. And afterwards, so he's in the kind of tourism and content creation sort of field. After this event, he was planning what he calls a creator house, so bringing together a bunch of content creators to, go to destinations and build these itineraries as a way of. He's starting this whole app thing. I won't go into it, but anyway, he brought together a bunch of creators in this creator house, and they had some extra beds. I had never been to the beach before. We were on a rooftop having a couple drinks at the end of the event. I made a comment that I've never been to a Thailand beach and I would love to go. And he said, well, I have an extra bed if you want to book a ticket and come along. So, 12 hours in advance, essentially, I booked my flight. And we all went to Phuket and we had a great time. It was raining almost the entire time, so I only got one beach day, but it was great to go just to make those connections with those people. I really just kind of wanted to kind of deepen those connections and those friendships that I was already building at the events. So it worked out great. But yes, Phuket.
I love that. I love those like random, unexpected, spontaneous decisions. So now you've been to the beach in Thailand, even if it was raining.
Yes, I have.
All right. So now that we've shared some reflection questions for looking back on the year, let's move on to different ways of looking forward at the new year with intention. So we were thinking about the idea of New Year's resolutions and how they usually don't work. I don't typically set resolutions anymore. How about you, Caitlin?
No. I think maybe every year I say I make some sort of half-assed resolution. I don't know, maybe I do a lot of things like half-assed, but resolutions, I make them half-assed. There's also the, word of the year thing, which I think is fun because that seems a little more simpler, a little more lighthearted. But that doesn't seem to work for me either. I think I with all of these things, you feel so excited in the moment and so motivated and inspired, and then it just kind of fizzles out. There's also a lot of vision boarding, which for me, that takes I don't know, a lot of time. That's a lot of commitment. There's tons of like workbooks that you can do and work through. But yeah, after a week or so, it's all out the window. And then with, going back to the word of the year thing, I think the last time I did it wasn't this year, but last year, I came up with the word community, which like, cool, great. I need more community. I love it. Did I get more community?
We all?
I guess I got more community out of it, but I don't know, just like choosing like some really generic word and hoping that it's going to shift your perspective and make your year so great. I don't know. It works for some people, not for me.
All right. So you are not making a resolution or choosing word of the year this year.
No.
I also actually went back through some old journals to try to find out like what I had chosen as a word of the year in the past, because I know I've done this before. Guess my word. Balance. Which is very cliche. And I clearly did not achieve it, as we talked about earlier, since, it's kind of an elusive thing. I still need to figure this out. If anyone has some magic secret, let me know. But somehow choosing it as my word of the year didn't, change things all of a sudden. So somehow choosing the word balance didn't give me balance. Imagine that. So with that in mind, we wanted to share some alternative ways to start the year that either we've tried or we're interested in trying, and maybe you can decide which would work best for you in 2026. So the first one I wanted to bring up is the 12-week year. So this concept comes from a book by Brian P. Moran and Michael Lennington. And the subtitle of it, though, is Get More Done in 12 Weeks Than Others Do in 12 Months. So obviously that's very appealing. But rather than setting big long-term goals for the entire year, this system encourages you to break it up into 12-week cycles, kind of treating each quarter like its own year. So that also kind of helps with the, January excitement that fades by December. So I'm really interested in this as more of like a productivity method than an alternative to New Year's resolutions, because it focuses more on the execution part of it. So maybe if you find that setting goals for a whole year is intimidating or just ineffective, this might be a more actionable way of breaking down your goals into more manageable chunks and then resetting yourself more often. So that was the 12-week year. Do you want to give another example?
Yeah. So, well, I definitely like that concept of the 12-week year. I'm going to have to look into that myself because I have not heard of that until you told me about it the other day, which is really interesting. That might work better for my brain. But another one is, so I've never actually read this book. Okay. But I have tried some of the methods a little bit. And this is from the book Atomic Habits. Now, yeah, there's a whole system involved. Like I said, that's really interesting. But kind of, I think step one of that system is keeping a scorecard. So I started my scorecard, but then I never referred back to it. This year, I am telling myself that I'm going to get my crap together and I'm going to finish the scorecard. So essentially what you do is you make a list of your daily habits starting from the beginning of your day. And when I say list of your daily habits, it's literally everything. Wake up. Do you look at your phone right away? You're writing that down. You brush your teeth. You step outside. You make your coffee, like literally everything that you do. And then you're going to evaluate each habit. You're going to basically mark it as good, bad, or neutral, based on its alignment with your desired identity is what it says. And then you kind of consider if these habits help you become that person that you want to be, if it aligns with your desired identity, or is it something that maybe you need to reevaluate and kind of remove from your daily life. And it says here, the goal is to increase self-awareness, not immediately change your behavior. And you can use this kind of to just regularly review and reflect on your scorecard to kind of make those intentional adjustments and cultivate supportive habits. So same thing, like it's not necessarily a strict New Year's thing, but if you do want to use New Year's as kind of a starting point to kind of reevaluate your life and the things that you're doing, I think this is a really great activity. There's also people, I did an activity with, his name's Rob Dial, and he also has a podcast as well. the name is escaping me at the moment, but he's really great for kind of personal development advice. And one of his activities, which other people have done too, is essentially same thing, going through and making a list of everything kind of that you do. And you're categorizing it as either an F yes or an F no. And then you can kind of see, are you doing more things in your life that aren't really lighting you up? And, what things can you get rid of to make more space to be doing more of those yeses in your life? So I did that activity. I thought that was super, super insightful. And yeah, those are just a couple good things that you can do. Yeah, kind of whenever. Do it throughout the year, maybe every quarter or something like that.
Yeah, I really like that as like awareness being the first step. Because I think we all have these goals of like, that are kind of vague, spend less time on your phone, exercise more, eat better. But like, unless you know where your time and attention is actually going, it is very hard to change those. So I am definitely going to reread some of those books and maybe try some of these for myself this year. But maybe start in December instead of January, like get a kickstart on it.
Get a kickstart and maybe even find a buddy to do this with. Janessa, you and I can maybe do this together.
That's a great idea. Yes. Okay. Find your buddy. So another one that I like is the Wheel of Life. I think a lot of people have different variations of this. So it is a visual way of evaluating what areas of your life you're excelling in and which you want to focus more on. So there can be anywhere from like 6 to 10 different categories, and you usually give them a score out of 10 for each one. So these categories could be like career, finance, personal growth, health, friends, relationships, fun and recreation, spirituality, or you can put some of those together however you like to section them out. And often it'll be kind of like a wheel, so the Wheel of Life. And for each score out of 10, you can see what your score is out of 10 for each of those. So for example, maybe this year you were really in like a grind phase with work and you're really happy with where it got you. But in doing that, you sacrificed your health. It's hard to do everything all at once. Or maybe now you've got your gym and nutrition routine like dialed in everywhere you go, but you feel like you're lacking community, as we talked about earlier. So I like that it's more of a holistic approach. And if you're a visual person, it might help more than like lists or writing out phrases. So you can kind of see which areas of your life it's time to like turn the dial up a little bit and focus on more.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think even combining some of these methods and sort of maybe making your own version of them can be super helpful too. But I think this is great. I think I'm definitely more of a visual person for sure. So I'm going to look more into this one as well. I'm going to look into all of them and I'll pick one. That's also another problem that I have is I do kind of like, I do this one and then I do that one and then I do the next one and then I half-ass most of them. And then it's like I just have tons of printed out papers and evaluations of myself that I then do nothing with. So I'm going to pick one of these and commit to them, I think, this year. This is a little bit different. This is more of a fun one that I have that I did last year and I loved it. I kind of stuck to it. So this is actually creating a bingo card for the year. So a 2026 bingo card. So last year, obviously, I did 2025. And you can either make a physical bingo card, which is what I did. And I got my mom and my niece involved. I kind of forced them to craft along with me and make these cute little bingo cards. I travel with mine. I actually have mine here. I went crazy. I like scrapbooked it. Or you can just go onto Canva, grab a, regular bingo card template, or I don't know, you could probably maybe draw something in your phone or just write down the items in your phone to cross off. Yeah, so you make this bingo card and you can put anything on it that you want to accomplish for that year. So for me, a couple things that I had on here was get a tattoo. That was accomplished. I think I got one this year. I was going to say, I thought I got two, but I got one tattoo this year. Get certified in breath work. I did that. Be on 3 podcasts. I was not on 3. I was on 1 podcast. So if anyone is looking for podcast guests in the next 2 weeks, so I can, cross off this bingo card thing, reach out to me, Caitlin at zerototravel.com. Thank you. And, learn Spanish. I tried to do that. That was a whole fail. Maybe I could talk about that on an episode. But yeah. And then essentially, you put these in whatever order that you want. And just like bingo, when is it 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you have, your free space in the center. Once you get 5 across, 5 diagonal or whatever, you can come up with how you want to reward yourself in whatever sense. Maybe that's splurging on something that you want to treat yourself with an activity or with some self-care or whatever you want. The one thing, so Janessa, you could see on this, but I have a lot of actually blank boxes still. So I never actually filled mine out fully. So this is my piece of advice, is to mix in both your bigger, maybe more serious goals with just like some fun travel ones. Like I think I went too hardcore, like personal development business that, well, for one, I maybe in a sense forgot to appreciate, just small, fun travel experiences. But then I put a lot of pressure on myself. Like I have all these big goals of all these courses I want to take and all these things I want to accomplish. And maybe that's not necessarily realistic for just a year, because a year sounds like a lot of time. But when life happens, it's really not that much time. So I would have put on mine maybe like go to a new waterfall, visit 3 new countries. I don't know, visit a friend, or just some kind of lighter, more fun things that you'll also very likely accomplish too, kind of to help keep that momentum going. But yeah, I did really enjoy doing this bingo card, and it's something that like I'm already thinking about how I want to make my 2026 one. So I think this is the one thing that I 1000% will be able to stick with each year.
I like that. I was so curious when I just saw you write bingo card on our outline, and I didn't know where you were going to go with that. So I loved hearing your process of what you put on it, what you wanted to put on it, give some inspiration. I think I'm a little less of a visual person, but I know that you are. So like seeing it on a bingo card is probably a cool way for people who are like that as well. And I'll have to think about what to put on my bingo card. I like the idea of mixing it up with like some fun travel themes and some more serious ones. So yeah, maybe that can get you, the listener, thinking about what to put on your bingo card.
Yeah. And then, okay, so we are running out of time. Janessa and I like to talk a lot more than we expect every single one of these episodes. Anyway, I have 2 more quick things really, really fast that I just thought of. So one thing is actually creating quarterly themes for yourself. So this is something that I actually do in one of the programs that I'm in. Is every quarter we come up with just a new theme to kind of keep at the top of mind for those few months. So for example, my theme actually this year, or this last quarter, is more about focusing on choosing myself and making decisions that are going to allow me to feel more stable in everyday life, kind of like what we talked about earlier in this episode. So that's something that has been really helpful for me. Once again, instead of picking a word for an entire year, it's kind of like picking a word for a quarter and really kind of focusing on that. And then my last extra bonus, we have another bonus here, is more so to help you to be able to look back at the end of 2026. So I have a friend named Scott, and if you ask him about anything, he will go back and refer to the notes in his phone. He has these long lists of every experience that he's had, every food that he's eaten, everything, right? So something that inspired me to do, which I want to get better at for this year, is just keeping track in my notes throughout the year of all my little wins, and maybe you put a theme to it. Maybe it's your little wins. Maybe it's the moments where you felt, growth, or, something like that, different categories, whatever, but just little wins throughout the year, so that you have something to look back on in 2026 when you go, wow, where the hell did the year go? I feel like I didn't accomplish anything, because that happens to a lot of us, right? We don't realize all the things that we actually did, the people that we met, the goals that we got to. So it's good for the end of the year, but also when you need those little reminders throughout the year when you start to feel discouraged. So that is my little extra bonus, is just start keeping track in your notes of things that you do to kind of motivate you and remind you throughout the year.
Yeah, I love that one. That sounds very manageable. Like when you think about, recapping a whole year, but if you're just writing down a few little words every day, I really like that because I always think I'm going to remember things and then I don't because we do a lot in a year.
So the last thing that I want to talk about today before we go into some fun rapid fire, because we're running out of time, we got to do rapid fire in this next one, is the concept of the new place, new me trap. And I wanted to bring this up because I recently noticed how I do this a lot. And I know, Janessa, when I brought up this idea to you, you also started laughing because you do it just the same. So I have a feeling a lot of us do it, but maybe we don't necessarily realize it. So this is a little bit more of maybe a PSA, just to maybe get you noticing if this is also something that you do. So, you have this concept of new year, new me, where you use the, January 1st as a starting point for something, or you have, I'll start on Monday, or I'll start at the first of the month. Well, for travelers, I think a lot of us say, when I get to the new city, then I will XYZ. Then I will start working out. Then I will get back into healthy eating, which is great in theory if you stick to it. That's great. But there's also the other side of when, let's say, when I get to Chiang Mai, I am going to start doing yoga classes. Great. Maybe I do one. I feel motivated. And then I start skipping the yoga classes. Like I mess up. And then instead of just picking back up where you started, like you mess up, you skip a week or whatever. And then the next week, instead of going back to your yoga classes again, you go, oh, I'll just try this again when I get to Berlin. So then you keep basically extending the date that you're going to start because you messed up. For whatever reason, it's this just concept stuck in your head that you can't just restart in that country, I guess, for whatever reason, but you just keep using it as an excuse. It's just an excuse, right? So Janessa, I want to hear about some ways that you've done this.
Oh, I am so guilty of this. Yes, I'm always going to be a totally new person in every new country. I'm going to have the perfect routine and wake up early, and these will be my work hours because that time zone will be so much more convenient and I'll have more time to catch up with my friends when I'm there. And then I do fall into the trap as well. Where like, well, I didn't sign up for a gym in my first week and now I have less than 4 weeks. So I won't be able to get my money's worth out of a monthly gym membership. So it's not worth signing up here. Or for example, I was in Mexico recently. I had a gym membership and on a day where I wasn't going to the gym, I am on my phone Googling and planning which gym I'm going to go to in South Africa when I could be going to the gym in Mexico. So absolutely, I'm so guilty of this. And I think it is too easy because we don't have to wait for January 1st. We have the next place where we somehow think things are going to be magically different. And I think we really just got to start with something small that's sustainable everywhere you go instead of imagining this whole overhaul. Right now I'm back home in Canada. It's freezing cold. I'm like, well, I guess I'm not going outside until January because that's when I'll be in a warm place again. So that step goal, not happening for a month. This is so relatable.
I am just so glad that I'm not the only one because I really almost kind of thought that I was when I started thinking about this. And yeah, it's the same thing. Like that idea where they say, you go to a new country and it changes you, but you still bring your baggage with you. So you're still going to have the same issues with keeping the habits and all of these things. So yeah, good to use as a starting point if you want, but just don't fall into the trap of then when you quote unquote fail in whatever it is that you wanted to accomplish, that you need the next destination to then restart that because you're going to continue. Like, sorry to break it to you, but you're going to continue to quote unquote fail in those things. And then you're going to have that same goal that you had in January or February. You're going to have the same goal in December. I know that I do. I have all the same goals by using this concept. So don't fall into it. That is all I wanted to say. I hope that was helpful.
Everywhere you go, there you are.
Exactly.
Right? Anyways. Anyways, we hope this conversation gave you some new ideas on how to reflect on the past year and start planning for 2026 in a way that works for you. So to wrap this up, we wanted to share some travel superlatives for the places we visited this year. So this could be fun to do your own travel superlatives. Don't overthink it. Just the first thing that comes to mind. We're going to try to keep this pretty rapid fire.
Uh-oh.
Are you ready, Caitlin?
I am ready.
All right. First one. Most surprising city.
Sofia, Bulgaria, because it's just, I think it's a little underrated. I think I liked it more than I expected. How about you?
I'm going to go with Nairobi. I'm going to go with Nairobi, Kenya. I was surprised at how much I fell in love with this city. There was just so much to do, and I definitely want to return to Kenya. All right. Opposite of that, what is the most overrated city?
Ooh, Albufeira, Portugal. It is party, 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 insane, not what I expected. That's all I got to say.
I'm going to cheat a little bit on this one. I didn't have anywhere that I thought was overrated this year because I spent 8 months of my year returning to places that I already knew I loved. So I nearly went for one weekend from Oaxaca City to Puerto Escondido. And I know I'm going to get some pushback on this because people love Puerto Escondido. I've been before and I didn't love it. I'm willing to give it another try, but I just had too much going on when I was in Oaxaca. So maybe another time. But in my opinion, Puerto Escondido is a little bit underrated. Sorry. All right. Most comfortable or easiest place to live long term?
Chiang Mai, Thailand, because it's cheap and you have everything.
Okay, I need to get there. All right. Mine would be Berlin, but not in the winter. We raved about Berlin in a previous episode, so I won't go into all of it again of why we love it, but so much to do there. Very easy to live long term. All right. Best meal that you ate?
Tacos, just tacos in Mexico. All of the tacos. When I go there, I have some food like things that I can't eat gluten. I can't have dairy, so it's very hard for me to eat when I travel. Mexico, tacos. I ate them every single day and it was amazing. Tacos. That's all.
All right. We have a very similar answer on that one. I'm also going to go with Mexican food. It's very hard to pick one specific meal, but I had a few tlayudas that I'm still dreaming about. So this is like, the thinner, bigger tortilla. It's crunchy and it's got like the beans and the cheese. I know you can't have the cheese, but so good. I wish I could have another one. And also the mole there. I love the mole. I love Oaxacan food especially. All right. Best dessert.
Best dessert. Shoot, I forget what they're called. They're here in Thailand. They're coconut milk based. They basically look like these little round pancake balls, but it's like coconut milk into a batter and maybe some like canned coconut, like coconut sugary kind of stuff, I guess, on it, maybe. And then they put random things on it like corn or I don't know, like other random vegetables and things that you wouldn't expect to go on a dessert, but they're really coconutty, like a coconut pancake, I guess, essentially. But they're so good. I can eat them every day.
Fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll have to try that. I'm also going with a place in Mexico for this one, maybe because it was recent, but there was a chocolate shop in Oaxaca City that had everything, cacao, all the hot drinks, cold drinks, bars of chocolate, and they also had this ice cream. They only made chocolate ice cream and it had cacao nibs in it, and it was just the most rich chocolatey ice cream I've ever had, just like pure chocolate in ice cream form. And I think I went a few times and I still dream about it. Okay, best coffee culture.
Ooh, this is hard because I think a lot of cities have really good coffee culture. I'm going to say Sofia, Bulgaria, just because it's unexpected. Because I was surprised by it. I mean, you have places like Berlin, Chiang Mai, coffee culture is insane. But Sofia, Bulgaria, there's so many cute coffee shops. So I'm just going to go with that one.
Very unexpected. Cool. I'm going to go with Cape Town. There's a lot of like specialty roasters there, really good cafes. My favorite one is called Truth. And I think Cape Town's kind of known for being a coffee hub within Africa. And I found lots of like work-friendly cafes there as well. All right, we've just got a few more quick rapid fire. So, most nomad friendly destination.
Chiang Mai.
Oh, okay. I thought we might have a similar answer on this one, but I guess I haven't been to Chiang Mai yet. I am going to go with Bansko, Bulgaria. It's just very easy to be a nomad there with all the co-working and community. Okay, best nature.
I'm going to kind of cheat on this one and say Bulgaria and Bosnia because they are both in the Balkans and the mountains and the forests are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I love the mountains in Bulgaria, but I'm going to go with Namibia because that is some of the most unique landscapes I've ever seen, like Sossusvlei with the salt clay pans, the massive sand dunes, the like 900-year-old fossilized trees, and then like the Sandwich Harbor where the desert meets the ocean. Just like so unique, so many beautiful places to explore in this country. Add Namibia to your bucket list. All right, best beach.
Ooh, I'm going to say the whole Algarve in Portugal. I only went to Albufeira, didn't love it, but the beaches down there are insanely gorgeous.
Ooh, okay. I actually only went to one destination that had beaches this year. So by default, I'm going to go with Cape Town. I mean, the beaches there are quite beautiful. I loved playing ultimate frisbee on one of the beaches on Sunday mornings with a group of people. The water is very cold there, but the beaches are quite nice. Best view.
Ooh, best view. Oh, that's hard. I think I'm the one who put this on here too. I should really...
Rapid fire,
okay,
Caitlin.
So many good views. I'm just going to go with, I know. Yaharina in Bosnia. There was just a really beautiful view when you go up the ski lift. It's like these gorgeous like rolling hills. It reminded me a little bit of like, I don't know, somewhere like hobbits would live or something. It was very magical.
Ooh, okay. I'm giving another repeat destination, but Cape Town, again, it's good for so many things. The views of Table Mountain and the ocean, but like the sunsets there, like you can't miss a sunset. They are just so beautiful all the time. There's a lot of really great spots, like Signal Hill and The Rock, just to go and watch a sunset over the ocean. So I love that. Couple more real quick. Best accommodation you stayed.
Okay, in Bangkok, my friend has these apartments in Airbnb. The location is a little inconvenient, but it's on like the west side of the river, but the view of Bangkok overlooking the river is absolutely insane. And they have fireworks at night sometimes too, so you get this like free fireworks show. And he actually has the apartment set up for nomads where you have like an ergonomic chair and like a standing desk and all these things. So it was very like accommodating for nomads.
Love that. All right. For me, for longer term, there's a co-living that I loved. But for shorter term, I had a very unique stay in these castles on a beach in South Africa along the garden route. It was just past a town called Knysna. It's a very beautiful area. And so a friend rented out these 3 castle properties that were all next to each other. And we had a group of like 24 friends go out for the weekend. And we just had this weekend party in these castles on the beach. So that was a very unique accommodation, even though it was only for a weekend. All right. Last one, super tough one, is best experience. Best experience you had this year.
Learning how to build those mud huts in Costa Rica. I think that was like my biggest experience.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good one. I am going to go with Dia de los Muertos in Oaxaca. That was just such a unique experience. So many aspects about that. And I talked more about that last month if you were curious about experiencing that. But all right, that was super fun. Rapid fire. Hopefully you can think of some of these for your own. Let us know if you have other superlatives that come to mind. I think we went back to a lot of repeat places this year, but we've got some new exciting trips planned next year. So We are each going to share our biggest takeaway from today's conversation in just a moment. But first, one last reminder to sign up for our free newsletter where you'll get more helpful resources like you heard today over at zerototravel.com/newsletter. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, let us know what you thought of this episode, share any ideas of what you'd like us to talk about in 2026. If you have thoughts about, intentions for the new year or what you'd like to see on the podcast, email us at Caitlin@zerototravel.com or send a message on Instagram to Zero2Travel. All right. So would you like to start with takeaway?
Sure. I can start with the takeaway. I think my biggest takeaway that I'm getting from this conversation right now, I think started with that question about, what did this year teach you about how you actually want to live? We both mentioned a bit of stability. And then, thinking about that and then some of these different activities that we can do to kind of prepare for the new year. I especially like the one from Atomic Habits. And I think those fit in nicely. So I think this episode, I'm taking away the importance of reevaluating these things and making the commitment to them. And you don't have to go all in at once. You don't have to take out every single last bad habit and then stuff in a ton of good habits and things to try to change your life for the new year. But what are those small, maybe easier things that you can just kind of start changing and adding in? And on a similar vein, actually, sometimes it's not actually about adding more things in. It's taking more things out to give you that space that you actually need to accomplish whatever your goals are, or to create, or to, live that life that you're striving for. So I think that is going to be my biggest takeaway from this episode today.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. And I'm excited to try some of these things as well, but not too excited where I'll get, shiny object syndrome and bounce from one thing to the next. So I think my biggest takeaway is, even though like a year flies by, it also, so much can change in a year. And I thought that was really nice to kind of look back and see like what different places we are in than we were 12 months ago, how much has changed, how many big things, as well as all the little moments. And you sometimes forget those. So I think I want to be more intentional about keeping track of those going forward. So I'm not just reflecting at the end of December every year. I love the idea of keeping track as you go. And I definitely want to be more intentional about that. And I think that there's just no one right way to do this, right? So whatever works for you, if you are more of a small things in the moment, if you are a big picture thinker, if you're a visual thinker, there's different strategies that can work for everybody. And sometimes trying to fit yourself into a box that isn't the right strategy for you is just going to lead to more of that failure. So try something out. And if it doesn't work, try something different that might be better suited. So this was a really fun conversation. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. And it got you thinking about some ways to reflect on your past year and look forward to the next year. We are so excited for the next year of Zero to Travel episodes to bring to you on the podcast.
Woohoo! All right. And then I have a quote before we go, Janessa, and that is, "The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes." And that is a quote by Marcel Proust. All right. So I hope this episode was helpful for you. This is our, Janessa and I's, last episode of 2025. So like she said, we're so excited to see you in the new year and continue our Remote Roundup series. And we would love to get feedback and ideas. So don't hesitate to reach out to us on social media or send us an email. And that is all. We'll see you in 2026.
Happy New Year.
This podcast has been brought to you by Zerototravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.